Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black British Parent Podcast. And today we have a prominent influencer, an activist based in Croydon, London, known for her extensive work in community safety, youth advocacy, and political engagement. Donna Murray-Turner. Have I pronounced it right?
Yeah, Murray, yeah.
Murray.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Happy to be back.
Finally.
Yeah,
Been meaning to have you to come,
I'm
but
telling
you know,
you.
such is life and
Busy people.
you see it. Thank you so much for joining us today and accepting our
It's an
invitation.
honour. It's an honour to be asked. I must make you lot know that.
I appreciate that. We normally start with an icebreaker. Not that we really need an icebreaker. We've been icebreaking for the past how long? However, for the sake of the podcast.
No, I can't body pop. No, don't ask me that.
No. What's your all-time favourite movie?
Ooh, now that's a question. I'll tell you my all-time favourite musical,
Okay.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Really? I've never seen that one. What's that about?
It's set around a group of Jewish peasants who live in some outpost in Russia
Gosh.
at like the turn of the century, and a man who has 3 daughters, and they both society is changing. So one marries somebody outside of the Jewish faith, another one marries without her parents' permission, but the eldest one, she does it the right way, but kind of dominates her husband, and I've always loved it.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, and no one said a theatre show before, I don't think, but you have to come and do something different, innit? Anyway. Anyways, so I'm going to dive right in. What I wanted to ask you is, like, keeping our community safe. You've been deep in the work of making Croydon safer, especially through the Safer Neighbourhood Board. What are some real challenges you've come up against, and what wins have really made you feel like, yeah, this is why I do this?
So to answer your question backwards, it's the losses that have more informed my need to keep Croydon and kind of, if I'm asked, other spaces safe, because people ring me like, da. So it's the losses, not the wins. And what kind of led to it? I just feel that, at the time, it's like the smallest constitutional role within Croydon Council. Like, it's really enough. It's a voluntary role. But every time somebody's held that position, it's mostly been like white people. And not that anything is wrong, but as Croydon's demographic has changed, I think it was important that a black person, a black woman kind of brought a different narrative that hadn't been brought before. And it was a time when we were experiencing our peak of young people dying through violence on the streets. So it was good to have a voice, I feel, and representation. And I think more than anything, the parents who'd lost their children, I feel it was not an advantage, almost like a comfort, a representation that somebody who came from a community that they were familiar with, understood certain cultural norms, was able to inform the police's policy on some things and how they dealt with certain things like 9 nights and stuff. Yeah, that was like a small win.
Something that keeps on coming up in terms of needing cultural representation and relatability. And I don't know, I know why. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer the right question the right way, but why is it that people outside of our community can't find it a bit challenging to relate to us or be relatable to us? Because when we're in those positions, we're still able to be relatable to other cultures outside of our own. Do you see what I mean?
It comes from a history of service. We've always been the world's servants. So the world looks at us to serve them. It's a power relationship, right? And we know in the pecking order of the world, even though we are part of the global majority, the world looks at us still through that lens of, well, what have they got to add? But we don't view the world in the same way. Given our challenges and our past, we still look to add value where we can. So it's the way that we're seen is because we're always seen to give something. And then, you know, there are vestiges of empire. So when you think about institutional thinking here in the UK, it's still based on that colonial model of, well, you have to, there's only one way to work. You know, like dead horse theory. Yeah. So it doesn't change, it doesn't evolve. It's still very not professionally curious. It's wedded to, well, we tell you what the rules are and then you go and obey them because we're white and we're right. It's white supremacist thinking. They will never admit to it, but that's what it is because it doesn't change, it doesn't evolve.
Yeah. Do you think it's something that they don't admit to, or that they lack understanding or being able to acknowledge that?
And neither, they don't want to move it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a short one. They don't want.
Yeah.
It's worked for them thus far. I think we're seeing the beginning of it not working for them, but it will be a good another 100 years before the wheels truly drop off. They've ruled a whole quarter of the globe with this model. So who are we to say that it doesn't work? It's worked. It's made them extremely rich.
Yes.
And nobody that's been extremely rich is just going to hand over their positioning in favor of making a few more comfortable.
Yeah.
That's not how the business model works.
For them, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
But it's broke for us. But, you know. So, Another Night of Sisterhood, ANOS. Why it matters. You started ANOS to support parents, especially mums, dealing with youth violence and knife crime. What was a moment that made you say, nah, we need something like this? And how has it grown since then?
So it was 2015. So many things had happened in my life personally. My father had died the year before. And at the end of that same year, so my dad died, May 2014. My sister died September 2014. And by the December, my mum was diagnosed as terminally ill with cancer. There's something about all of those things that forced my thinking to evolve rapidly, because what I realized was I was now the head of the family. I was. Are
you the eldest?
Yeah. So shout out to all my eldest girls. And I was in a whole different space, and me and the children had to move in with my mum because my mum didn't want to die in a hospice. She wanted to die in her home. That was her one request. So me, my brother, and my 3 children moved in with my mum to take care of her, knowing that at some point she was going to pass. That was hard, but my feelings came from, for starting Another Night of Sisterhood. After my dad died, I had therapy. And it was meant to be 6 weeks, Deb. I ended up with 48 weeks of therapy.
Gosh.
And from those conversations, Another Night of Sisterhood was born, because what I realized was people needed to talk and needed to create space, right? So you have to hold space for people to talk. Yeah. And I wanted to talk about so much. And my friends would come around, we're talking about bare things like the stabbings, And I was like, right, I wonder if other people want to talk in this way. And the first one we ever held, 95 women rolled out.
Wow.
And we never looked back. I've had to take some time away to heal, because I did, and I've been very open with it. I have suffered from burnout, and not burnout, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, not burnout of my own making, but burnout of working with institutions that lie, that leech, that steal intellectual property, and ultimately your time, but are definitely not, they give a lot of lip service, but they're not really in the business of making a difference for Black people across London, across the UK. So it was a lot of energy spent in trying to shift something that was never going to shift, hence my answer to you earlier on about they don't want to. It comes from a place of knowledge. It doesn't come from a place of observation.
Let's talk about it now. You said we'll talk about it later. Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, a lot of my work has been with mostly in the criminal justice area. So you've got like CPS, you've got the police. They, for a start, they like to steal Black people's thinking. Because we're the ones, as usual, we're the engine of the world in terms of thought leadership. Anything that we think of takes on. They never can think of anything for themselves. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to engage people. All of this London Race Action Plan and New Met for London is a farce. And so, because they don't know how to talk to people, but they want to police them, they have to come to people like me and say, well, how do you do it? But they don't want to pay you what's commensurate with your expertise and your reach. And then there's a lot of homage paid. And I'm going to say this, at an individual level, I have met some fantastic officers. I have people that I would say are friends. I ain't going to even like take too long on that. But as an organizational culture, it is institutionally racist, it is institutionally misogynist, and it holds no space for any differential thinking. It's very political, it's a very hyper-political space. And so if you don't know how to navigate, you can, like myself, you get caught up in wanting to make a difference and you think there's a lot of chat about making a difference, but the dial never shifts. That takes a toll. And it brings with it a certain kind of, well, I don't work with these guys, they're disingenuous. But with the certain knowledge that doesn't matter whether you take a day off or not, Donna, the streets of London will still be policed by racist police officers who have at their disposal a whole range of tools to make life very difficult for black people, especially our young people. And they will do it because the power dynamic is in their favor and not in ours. So, you take some time off to heal, but I'm back.
And we're grateful that you actually was able to take the time to heal, because some of us don't know how to do that.
Broken people hurt people. And we've just had a conversation just before. And I didn't want to be one of those people. I wanted to make sure that my anger was proportionate and it was for who it needed to be. And I think one of the biggest lessons I learned about the police is they just don't value black female lives. And there's a myriad of kind of examples that we can take from inside their organisation. But in my dealings with them, we had an incident where black women in the local community were calling out a well-known influencer, and the police's reaction was like, well, he's our boy, we can't possibly get rid of him, what are we talking about? And that really made, at a time when their own London Race Action Plan, Commitment 2, because I do read, it's kind of, Vogue, violence against women and girls, and in the black community, it's all a load of wash. Because there was an instance when they could have made a difference. And again, a lot of lip service has been paid, but nothing moved the dial. And black women are like, well, hold on a minute. Your paperwork says that you want to work with us and engage us. But actually, when you're given the opportunity to do that practically, you don't want to do it. And instead, Donna got dropped and Donna kind of removed herself from the space, because I could see that, like in so many male-dominated spaces, you'll take what you want, but when it actually comes to doing the work that you speak so much about, you don't want to do it.
That's crazy. And as a black woman, being a black woman, and having to deal with so much resistance, yet they so evidently need us to be able to do the work we're doing, but we're undervalued in the ways that we are. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and I've been seeing you do the works, and some of the things you've shared with me, I cannot believe. I mean, I cannot believe, and I didn't expect that from Donna. Not expect that from you, but expect that for you in terms of the things that you've had to go through. So it's really quite disheartening, I think. And what does that mean for the future of our black women, for our women that is that, like, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, we were talking earlier on about standing on the giants, the shoulders of giants,
yeah.
and the greats before us. And it's like, now there's those of us, yourselves especially, people like yourselves, who are continuing on that work that's much needed, and hopefully that will influence and inspire the next generation. But it's like, why are we still having to do this level of work? You would think that the works that you and previous greats and giants have done would like make it a little bit easier for us now, but it just seems to feel like it's getting more and more challenging.
I think because we have the false expectation that white supremacy will move. And I know I keep on mentioning like race, but they hold the cards, right? They have the purse strings. These institutions are theirs. They're not ours. And I think where we've gone wrong is we've not looked at employing a different model.
Yeah.
And we are quite capable of it because 80 years ago, when our grandparents came here from the Caribbean, they brought over models of survival that were not European in their ingenuity. And I really believe that there is a space and time now to kind of return to some of that thinking. I have no problem with collaborating with others who kind of see the vision the same. I think it's a time. I'm taking a leaf out of my Black Sisters in America's book. You know, I don't want to work with institutions. I want to work with other Black women, people that are God-fearing. I want to work with them to build up the community. I don't see my vision anymore working with these institutions because they're not going to change. They are what they are. And I think it's part of the frustration is acknowledging that for all of this goodwill and kind of micro conversations, the macro is never going to shift. Now, if you're constantly trying to, it's like one of the tasks of Artlist, isn't it? He had to push the stone up every day, and every day Zeus sent it back down. At some point, you have to realize you're not Artlist. You don't have the energy to keep on pushing this thing every day, only for it to roll back down on you. So I think it's time to move away and just go and build our own mound of pebbles. It might not be the mountain, but
it's your little hill.
It's our little hill, and we claim it and we own it, and nobody can come and touch us. Right?
Yeah.
We're not bothering them. We're not asking them for anything. We are Black people across the globe. We're a massive consumer a body. We have to look at our strengths. We are quite capable of funding our own programs. We are quite capable of coming together and doing that. The way in which that is done, that's going to take more of a conversation. But I think this constantly looking at them to help us is part of the problem. And it encourages the supremacist thinking all the more because they're like, well, they're going to come to us. And so we can tell you, have that conversation, no, and, yes, and you can do. And it's that same old kind of like white savior where your parent. I think we have to kind of abandon that. Leave those who want to continue down there. So I'm not going to disparage it totally. Yeah. Some good work goes on in that space. I just don't have any more time for it because I'm looking to be paid my worth for my qualification, for my time. And I want to work with other people that see that as a trueness as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So you made sense of what I was trying to get at. But isn't that going to be a little bit, again, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm just, given the experiences we've been up to at this point, isn't that going to be a bit challenging? Because like in America, there's like a wider demographic of African-American women to work together or find their clique or find their group. Here, it's just a little bit more challenging, I feel like, because there's less of us and there's a huge, like that whole patriarchy thing still runs in even amongst us as women, Black women, so.
I think you have to find your tribe. And yes, we're not limited to the UK. Like we're part of this huge diaspora, right? So if that means we have to go home or we go to St. Lucia, we go to Jamaica, we say like, who's with us? Who wants to do this with us? Yeah. It's not, Black women are the most educated group on earth. Now, that in itself is inspiring. So where are we finding people? So maybe we go to America and we meet 170 like, nah, you lot are on some long thing. But 30 say, yeah, we're with you. There you go. I don't want to live life if it's not challenging. That's how my personality works. Like I'm fueled by challenge. I'm very confrontational. So that for me is like, oh, you want to have it? Come on, then let's go. So I'm here for the challenge of it. Yeah, but like what? You know what I mean? Earrings off. So I'm here for the challenge, and I'm here to find my tribe. And I know, like I'm now halfway through. A century. So I know that it's not something I may ever live to see finish, but I'm here to start it. I'm here for other people to eventually come and stand on my shoulders to say, well, you know what? This is what Donna and Debbie and others that are like-minded, this is what they built and this is how we can build on it. And I'm not saying it must be built in my image. What I'm saying is we have to make a start. We have to make a start at having a side institutions. Yeah. I don't think that we should try. We've tried them. Come on, man. We've tried. We talk about representation all day long, but the only ones that they put anywhere near the policy making, any of the Black people they let anywhere near the engine room look like us, but don't have wider Black interests at heart. Yeah. And that's not, again, that's because being Black is not monolithic, right? But if you're not going to challenge social injustice where you are, then I have to really, I think a lot of people have bought into I was saying it to you earlier on, the kind of capitalist, individualistic mindset. Well, I'm all right. And that's never been my appeal. It's never been, as much as I'm on radio and television, me still broke. So whoever hears this and sees this, send me a money. It's never, money's never been my motivation. And I've seen others of my peers where it has been, and they've gone on to do great things, but it's very individual. It's very about me. I want to build with a collective because...
Or it's restricted in some kind of way.
100%. There's also that. They are restricted, but whilst I have never bought into the restriction, this is what I'm saying. This is the time to build laterally now.
Yes.
Because I'm nobody's girl.
Yeah.
Like, nobody pays my bills apart from me. I do consultancy work, I get paid for it, I move on. And so that independence allows me to find other independent-minded women, men in the space and build with them. I think that's the only way. Because this United Kingdom, it's always going to play games.
Domestic abuse and protecting women. We don't talk enough about how domestic abuse links to wider community issues. Poverty, mental health, even youth violence. From your work, what are the gaps in how we support women and what needs to change, especially in Black and brown communities?
So as ever, I'm going to speak about what I know. And so...
Best way.
There is so little data held on Afro-Caribbean, African women.
Really?
What? I'm doing my master's right now, as I was telling you. And big up Auntie Dr. Joanne Wilson and Professor Claudia Bernard and Julia Sudbury and maybe a few others that I can mention. There's not a lot written by... For a start, there's not a lot of Black academics in comparison. And universities fund PhDs. So maybe they don't want you to do too much research on the Black experience, so you don't get the funding for it. Therefore, your thesis is on an area that they will fund, right? I'm working with a PhD research fellow student, big research fellow, Sian Jones, right now, and even meeting her, I'm only doing a master's, but she's a step ahead of me, and so little data is held on us. But yet we've been there for nearly 80 years, if you think of Windrush. So for me, the gaps are huge in terms of the data, and I think there has to be a move where organisations like us start to capture our data and we turn that into something. Even if we don't do it ourselves, even if we have contacts with other universities where we give them our data, we start to turn this into stuff that we can present on, like I was saying to you earlier on, because that's the way that they've done it. Before they used to tell us it's about data, now they want, academic methodology behind it. And I think that's a trick that we need in the voluntary sector. How do we get that academic methodology behind our proposals for funding? Because they always keep on moving the goalpost. In terms of gaps, I said yesterday on my LinkedIn, I see there were pictures with the new deputy mayor and Sadiq and others talking about Vogue and domestic abuse. Not a black face in the picture. Yet the media, the broadsheets are calling an existential crisis the rise in Black femicide across London and I'm sure across the UK. So who's having the political policing conversation about that? Who is talking about what Black women want, what we need, and how we can keep ourselves safe? And let us just remember as well that domestic abuse is now moved on. When we think of domestic abuse, it shouldn't even be called domestic abuse. I prefer the term intimate partner violence.
Gosh.
But even that is just one area. We now have a huge emergence in parent-to-child domestic abuse.
And child to parent?
Child to parent, not parent-to-child, I meant child to parent domestic abuse. And child to grandparent. The amount of grandparents I meet who are raising their grandchildren because of immigration, because of incarceration, because of a whole range of things. Who is talking about that in our community? Who's leading on that in a method with methodology behind it, so that we can present these findings to our members of parliament and say, hey, are you this is what the data tells us. Who's representing our interest in this conversation? Show us who they are. Because this is ultimately political, right? If we're paying taxes and we're contributing, yet our needs and wants are not represented, then we start to elect the people who do represent the interests that we have. And I think one thing in this United Kingdom is that They rely on the fact that we are complacent and ultimately lazy, and we don't necessarily as a community activate politically. We complain a lot and we whinge, but we're so super resilient that we just go back anyway. And I think we've got to change that narrative.
So harsh though, the competent and laziness, but it's facts. But it's still so hard.
You didn't
to
invite
hear.
me to chat rubbish, did you?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Hell
right.
no.
So,
Come now.
I
Say it
just-
like it is.
I can't-
But I'm going to say it like it is. And I
No,
can imagine
100.
there's people that will hear this and think, I'm not lazy, I'm not competent, and have that kind of attitude. But if you look at on a grand scale of where
Yeah,
we're
I'm not
at and
talking
where we're
micro,
positioned.
I'm
No, yeah, of
talking
course, I
macro,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course. So it's just like, in hindsight, it's like, how can we address these things and acknowledge them? Because how I didn't, it's not until having certain conversations and speaking to families directly that obviously come to us because of our platform and share what they share with us, I didn't quite anticipate the levels of child to parent abuse. And the idea, I guess in some ways I kind of assumed that there was a possibility, because I would imagine that I know that not every child that's is affiliated is coming from a parent's dynamic of affiliation. Sometimes these children are getting involved with things outside of the home, and then as a result of that, I can only imagine what that's like for the parents, if the parents are even aware, because some of them are completely oblivious to what their children are doing, but at the same time, sometimes they're obviously suffering at the consequence of their children's newfound power or stresses that they're having to deal with. They end up being the scapegoat for their children. But I didn't necessarily, although I did see or understand that that's kind of happening, I never realized to this scale until speaking to the likes of you and the likes of Lee Jasper about these kinds of issues.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And again, it's one of those things that we don't like to talk about as a community, because we spend so much time talking about what other communities are doing and what they're not doing, and how, running down Babylon, that we're not necessarily understanding that the fire is inside the house. And I don't, I don't say that it's not happening in other communities. It is. Other communities have different. There's a real surgence in the South Asian community.
I was about to say, I can only imagine.
Sexual abuse and whatever, as there is in ours. I'm just saying that when it comes to the child-to-parent domestic abuse, it is an issue. And of course, external factors exacerbate the problem. So we're living in we've been in a cost of living crisis since 2009, if you look at the numbers, right? And we are in a global downturn with people like Trumpelstiltskin in the White House. And so Black people's interest across the diaspora at an all-time downturn.
I wasn't laughing at the perspective, I was laughing at the...
Trumpelstiltskin. I get that from one of my favorite creators on I hope she doesn't copyright it.
Oh gosh, no, stop it.
I
You're
love
in
when
trouble, not us. The opinions of
I'll
the
take
guests.
the blame,
I'm joking.
I'll take
Go on.
So if we look at it from a more, like a strategic point of view, like it's everybody's coming for us. And one of the things we're not doing is we're not communicating what is going on.
Yeah.
And really and truly, have we made safe spaces? So if you're a mum or a dad, because I've seen it happen to fathers as well, and your young person is coming in and showing bare licks and tumps because they can't get the £20 and want to go out with their friends. Just like with any other form of abuse, you're embarrassed, right? There's an element of shame, of judgment. People are going to say, well, what kind of parent are you that you get this? So people are not readily going to say this is what is going on for me. And also there is added context. There's housing, there's employment. All of those things. I'm a mum and I don't work and I can't give them the money and da-da-da and whatever, and they want to be with their peers, and all of those elements are part of why people don't reach out for help. So I think there's a real capacity, when you talk about the gaps, are we creating together collaboratively spaces where parents who are facing that kind of child to parent domestic abuse, where do they go? And where are the services designed for them? Now, we can't rely on the police, because I've just said their London Race Action Plan and their New Met for London is a farce. And this is based off of Louise Casey's reviewing report, right, where she specifically says, and even in the Angelini report, there need to be specialised services for Black women that speak to our context. Well, we saw what they did with Sister Ngozi. So where are we going after that? So for me, I think this is a reset for Black women across the UK, and I'm very interested and would love to come and speak all over this United Kingdom to speak to Black female audiences to say, well, what can we pull together? And I mean this, you know, we've got to be bigger and brighter with the thinking. This just can't be because, you know, it's Caribbean women and we have this. It's got to be everyone. And that new expression of black, when we talk about black British, it's no longer just about those of us who make the most noise, which tend to be from the Caribbean community. We now have black Muslim sisters that are here. We have so many different Somalians, Ethiopians, so many different Ugandans, Zimbabwe, they are here. What are we doing to knit that together? Because I think one of the things that we do well is we buy into the Kool-Aid. We tend to replicate the models of oppression that already oppress us. So we tend to go and make the same model that the police use on us, that the criminal justice system uses on us, in how we engage with one another. And I think we've got to abandon that. We've got to admit there are differences, that we do things differently. But if we want to survive, we have to collaborate. And that may mean the dispensing of ego, which is an individual decision, right?
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news, and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show. The ego is definitely a problem, and the minute you even talking about ego, everyone's already getting their ego in a twist, and it's like, we got to be about the community, because we've only got so much lifetime on this planet while we're here breathing, and it's we're on borrowed time, and we're supposed to be building the foundations for the generations coming after us, so there's no room for our ego, but...
I think that's we feel when we're young we're going to live forever. Yeah. You know, now that I'm this side of being young, I'm like, at a good pace, I might have 30 more years in the bag. What am I going to do with my 30
But then there's
years?
others of us on this side of from being younger, and we're trying to clutch on to everything we possibly can because we want to leave behind a legacy of ego. Really, essentially, other than, you know, to be able to say that, yes, I've been a part of doing that. I feel like for me, I guess I would probably have those same words. Yes, I was a part of being that, but not to have my name on any plaque. Or do you get what I'm saying? Like, I know I served my purpose. Yeah, man. There's a difference in that.
Ego is,
and there's nothing wrong with ego.
No, legacy is subjective, right? As is ego. So what is some people's ego is actually confidence. And some people will be invested by the king, and there'll be those of us who, you know, we left some good teachings. I want to write a book, right? I want to write a book about Black British female experiences since Windrush. I want to write about that in a way that I have not, because I do a lot of reading, in a way that I have not seen it written about before, and how Black women kind of engage with these institutions in the criminal justice system. That's my passion. That's my area of expertise. But it's all subjective, sis. So, you know, like I said, I'm here for my sisters who are doing great things and being invested by the establishment, equally as I am for my sisters in academic spaces, equally as I am for my sisters running their VCS, their CICs. Like, I'm here for all of it, because all of it is progress.
But just let go of the negative ego.
Yeah, but can we just leave that with the coats and the bags?
And I agree. I'm there as well, because sometimes I guess I get caught up in having conversations about certain things, and I share my perspective, and it's obviously always subjective. It's always relative, but then the ego will take it and make it run somewhere else and make it.
And we're humans, right?
So and I get it, and I understand that. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I'm not knocking it, but that's not my intention. No. Do you know what I mean? So how we, back on what you were saying in terms of, because I'm still stuck on the child parent abuse thing. What can help alleviate that? Furthermore, what is causing that, do you think?
I think it's, like I said, it's a whole
social media and all that.
Social media, parenting styles. Listen, we were talking before. We got kids. Between us, we got 6 kids, right? My children have access to Wi-Fi. They have devices.
Mine too.
The difference is the parenting style. It's about investment. I think the core conversation, and this is why it's got to be held in the Black female space, is Are we, whilst there is a societal responsibilization that the female is responsible for anything to do with children, right? That's what the world will tell us. Our bodies are policed, our thinking, our parenting styles. With that being the case, but not necessarily the truth, what decisions are we making inside that paradigm?
Yeah.
Who are we laying down with? Now, if you know, let's just have a real conversation right now, right? If you know that he's got 5 baby mothers and 8 picnic, before you wait. Is that boy or wait you're saying?
I'm saying, wait.
Right. So if you know before you went to the all-night blues dance and you meet this fella, he's got the gold chain. You know the way they do it? He's got the gold chains and the gold teeth, and he's driving his brother's Benz or whatever it is, right? And through conversation, you find out, as your sister, because I love you, I'm gonna have to ask you, what about you did you think was going to make a difference in him? It's a hard, cold question. It's weighted with judgment. But that's what I'm saying, because what you're going to say now when the twins are born a year later and he's gone, and they're called Caden and Baden, is the wickedness of man. And now, this is why, you'll hear me talk about white supremacy, but I'm going to tell something that not a lot of people want to hear. We're lucky we're born in this United of the Kingdom. Because if it was back home, who am I in them picnic? At least, because we're born here, we've got the welfare state that we can, I'm not saying we haven't paid into it and others will be coming with that, but I'm telling you, enough of us would be outside the city gates gnashing our teeth if it wasn't for this welfare state, right? So there has to be a conversation where as black women, we start to pick up some responsibility where we can. We know that bad things happen and people take advantage and manipulate it. But sis, if he told you you got the 5 baby mothers and the 8 picnic, what kind of style were you bringing? Was it some Wing Chun style that you thought you was bringing that was going to make it different?
I don't understand the need to even take up a project such as that one. I mean, why do you want to try and make a difference or be the...
But people do, because people don't want to be alone, because we've been fed the foolishness that unless... And you can't even join in this conversation. And we've already established why. It's 3 out of 3. It's 3 out of 3. But we've been conditioned to believe, often through our black church structures, that unless you have a man and you're married, you ain't shit. Now, with that conditioning, when we're small, you're doing your little wedding, and all of this thing we've put on girl children, but not about education. Not about buying property, not about getting together with their girlfriends and investing, even if it's not property here, back home or wherever they want. The world is, we're now global citizens, right? With the advent of the digital era, we are global citizens. We could be here and we're having a meeting in Bangkok. Do you understand? So kind of throwing open the doors wide to our children, and less about the sexualization of their gender, and more about what you do with the life that you have. And that's the conversation I want to have. But for the generations of my generation and older, it's about what legacies or what tales or messages, because we are an oral tradition people. We know about books, but they brought books to us. We told our history verbally. So what messages am I leaving for your daughters, and what messages are you leaving for my daughter? I think some of it has to be about responsibility. And at the end of the day, what choices are we making for ourselves, and where is the focus? Yeah.
100% agree. Thank you.
The feminists are going to kill me. They're going to be like, how can you be doing... But I'm not a feminist, you know. I'm a sisterhood. I'm a sisterhood girl, you understand? You have sugar, come, you need it. We have salt, you need it. I'm a sisterhood. I'm not, because it's the one bra that we both got, so why are we burning it? And they've never represented our interests. And I think that's the other thing. My lecturers are not going to like this, but I'm going to... White feminism doesn't suit our model of living.
At all.
We come from transactional agricultural backgrounds, where if you have corn and me have peas, this is where we come from. We don't come from this capital. So it doesn't work for us. No. Burning bras and whatever, it's about sisterhood. And I want to have more conversations about that.
Yeah, 100%. How can we start having those conversations? Or
Well, we're having one now. I suppose we could, if we're really nice to Dwayne, he might come and film for us where we've got a whole group of us.
Yeah.
But I think these are the, this is, if I promise to do some salmon for him, I don't know if it might work.
some
But these are the conversations we need to be having. However, not in isolation, because equally our brothers need to be having a similar
100%.
conversation that mirrors the conversations
Yeah.
we're having. I think that's what's been missing.
And they need to be, I think we need to have our own private conversation, but we also need to have those conversations with the brothers there as well for them to witness it. And not necessarily take over, but to be there to hear the realities.
I think the black community,
and vice versa.
100%. I think the black community has to learn different modes of patriarchy
Yes.
and different modes of matriarchy that
Yes.
fit us.
Yes.
Instead of using the same instruments that have
Yeah.
been used to oppress us and using them again on us. I think black men have got to look at a patriarchy that suits them, because without us, there is no them. Likewise, for us, there is no us without them, because this is a racist, hostile environment that we're living in. So without that codependency,
And it's an
right,
imbalanced
I could
one
be
as
as
well.
educated as I want. When I leave here and they find my body by a bin, they're going to say it was just a black woman. They're not going to say, if I have a man that can speak for me and can speak well for me, then I kind of buy into that patriarchal view, right? So I'm all for sisterhood, and I don't like idiot men or women. But what I'm saying is, I think that the conversations need to be mirrored. We can talk as women, but equally our men,
Needs to be involved.
they need to step up and have their own mirrored
Like I said,
conversations.
the balance is required. This society has made it very patriarchal and very male dominated, and women can just handle that just about, but even with their gaze and their control and their manipulation. So I hear you and I agree. But I'm down, by the way. I'm saying that
let's
for the
do that.
record.
Yeah,
I'm
Dwayne,
down.
did you hear that,
I don't know about Dwayne recording. No, I'm joking. I don't know if the salmon quite make it. No, I'm joking. It probably would. It probably would. It probably would. It
You
probably
leave
would.
D alone, yeah?
Okay, so you ran as a candidate for Croydon West at some point. What made you take that step? And what did you learn about politics that people on the outside might not realize?
Lord God. It hard.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest things, I think, other than getting pregnant and having children, I've ever done in my life.
Jeez.
It takes so much out of you. Why did I do it? I feel because in my career, when you start off at the community level, you think community, and then you kind of get invited into these spaces and these rooms as you speak to, and you start to realize really quickly, like, education opens up your mind, innit? That's why I'm constantly on this education vibe. All of these things are political. And actually, when I sit down and I do watch Prime Minister's Question Time and I do watch programs that kind of give you an insight into Parliament, nobody is speaking about the experiences that I know if I pick up the phone and call you, you're going to have. And there's about 20 other women I know in my circle that are having the similar experiences. So where is the political representation for us? And yeah, they want to buy into this this political blackness, but Asian women are not speaking for black women, haven't done, and ain't going to be talking on our behalf for the next 150 years. We have very similar experiences, but they're not the same. So who is speaking for the Deborah and Donnas? Who is speaking for the Dwaynes and Delroys? Where is our context being spoken to? And so we keep on giving our votes to these. And right now, we've got two right-wing parties. Let's just be honest. Labour is no longer the party of the working man or woman. I don't think Labour know who they are. I think they're just like big scam merchants out there just trying to, trying to get anybody's vote. And I wanted to make a difference. And anyway, I was 50 and I was like, sod it, I don't have parents. The kids are growing up. I'm going to do this. I've always wanted to... Like, I'm a smart girl, right?
Of course.
I can articulate myself.
High intelligence.
And it was like the next step for me. And so I did it. I was given an opportunity, and we're not going to get into that. I was given an opportunity, and I took it. But what did I learn? Well, I know how to run a parliamentary campaign. I'll tell you that much. And what it takes, and it takes money. Whole heap of money. It was good for me in terms of campaigning. So I went to like fundraising dinners held by, I tell you who've got some really good sisterhood going on. Let me tell you about South Asian Muslim women. Yo, they got paper. And more than that, they got power. I went to one dinner and they'd built a hospital in Gaza,
Gosh.
which was being bombed at the time.
Gosh.
And they were sending a whole hospital, maternity stuff. They were buying equipment from the USA that was being shipped out there. Like, they're organized. And I would like to see in the next 5 years that we are just as organized. And so I learned a lot. I had a lot of insights. I went to temples. I did a lot of things that were outside of I even preached in church. And that was good for me because I kind of reconnected with not with Bible, but with spirituality.
With that faith in that kind of way.
100%.
Was you not like that before, really, so much?
Well, I can recite the version of Our Father. What? Yeah, I can do that next to a set with the Ray and Nephew and the Red Bull. That's where I was before.
Was it ready?
If we're gonna be a whole 100, like let's just be 100.
No,
like,
I got the song running in my head.
yes, kids, aunties out there. What? All of these things. There's lots of pictures on my social media. But it was. I'd always prayed, yes, but I'd never really church. You know, a church girl. This is a bit too funky. So it was nothing that I was really in, and I just church for me strict.
Yeah.
And not just strict because you have to be modest. That's not a problem. I haven't got a problem. It was strict with
The rules and regulations.
well, they don't make a voice for intelligent black women
Yeah.
to have an authentic voice.
Yeah.
It's another space of oppression for me.
Yeah.
So I've never really been into
Yeah.
black church. If anything, I'd burn a fire on it. But actually, when I was campaigning, shout out to my uncles, Bishop Grandison and Uncle Mark Nicholson, and Mr. Reed, Bishop Reed, all of those relationships, we go to the same gym, were established through there. And I feel closer to church. I still got a lot of accounts to hold in there and feet to the fire. But I feel that it was a good thing for me. It helped me grow. Campaigning helped me to grow and make me see the world again.
In a different way.
It was like doing an MA in 2 months? I was like, raw, this is what? Power. But money and convincing people, that it was a lot. It was hard.
Gosh. Okay.
I'm going to do it again.
You wouldn't. You would. You gonna?
I'm going to do it again, yes. But
Keep
not
us-
perhaps with the same people, but I am going to run again, yes.
Good to hear. So your TED Talk. I watched it. I didn't even know until I started doing some extra research on you. I saw it. Oh my gosh. How was that? As an experience.
Heck, wow. I'd never had a PR rep or a publisher before. It was during COVID, so I did my TED Talk in 2021. So it was really weird because everything was online, and my coach, I fell out with my coach. Imagine only me could follow with my coach. Because I said the woman asked me if I do too much now. And she want to talk to me like she and Miss Marva did give birth to me. So I thought I wasn't having it. And me quite nicely told her about her parts. So I had to end up writing my speech with just me and my publisher. And again, I got put onto it through shout out to Lee Lawrence, who was like, Nadi, I can see what you're doing. Like, you need to bring you to a broader platform. And I think it didn't do as well because it was COVID and people were fighting for their lives and worrying about their
Other
elderly
things,
parents. Other
yeah.
things were on the national agenda, and I appreciated that. I want to do another one. I see that they only want like new speakers because I follow a few TEDx platforms. But I want to do another one because I have so much to say, as you can tell. And I didn't, to tell you the truth, Deb, I didn't realize that TED Talk had such an effect. I would meet black women. I know them, I spend a lot of my time greeting people that I don't know who them is. They'd be like, I know who you are. Oh, when you did your TED Talk, that really inspired me, that black woman, from ends and da-da-da. So
It was
it's good
refreshing.
because it inspired other black women to feel, and other women as well, that they could do it. But this time, if I do it, I have fire. It's a different Donna, right? I'm more educated. My vocabulary is grown. I have a different understanding of how this thing works, and I want to bun down the thing. So the TED Talk this time will be a lot different.
Hopefully we'll have you do a BBP talk one day. But So, okay, so your TED Talk, was it all about flipping the script on oppression and outdated thinking. What's the one thing you wish people would take away from it?
If I'm honest, my TED Talk of 21, it's like the milk version of the rum that I want to bring, and not the rare nephew. I'm talking about the Jankrabati proof, like this thing could clean your cooker
100
kind of.
proof,
You understand?
yeah,
I want to
man.
bring some or
Ink
what's the-
stripper.
Yes, man, that the one I want to bring. So by comparison, where I'm talking about inequalities and I'm talking about working with the police. Now you ask me, "Them money down, man. When I work with them, we can build our own structures." That's the whole point of going inside their camp, to build our own singular structures for us, by us. So I think that's one of the things I've taken away. What would people take away from it? I think more than anything, I just want young people and our people to look and say, you can be a welder's daughter and a cleaner's daughter from Croydon, and you can have a TEDx talk. Like, that's what I want my legacy to be. That she ran for parliament, she only got 503 votes, but guess what? You can be a nobody from somewhere, and once you're consistent and you're educated and you're articulate, you are qualified to speak about the needs of your people. And your people might only be 10 people, but they're still your people.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to take away from it. I think my generation, more so than the generations after me, tend to look at things that it's not for us. No. I'm 50 and I'm doing my master's, and I don't care who want to say, don't you think you're a bit? No. I got the aptitude and the capacity, I'm going to do it. We only get, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is what I believe, yeah? And I've buried both my parents and my sister. I'm not coming back in the same form to do this again. So you see, while I'm here and I'm this dynamic and I'm this intelligent and articulate, I'm going to do what I want to do to make me feel fulfilled. And what I didn't know when I was in front of the DJ set raving and woy-woying was that actually I'm an academic.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And it wasn't something that was made apparent to me when I was growing up either. I was always told that I was bright. Oh, you're very bright. It's a word that is used often by white teachers for intelligent black children. They won't say she's smart, she's intelligent, she can go far. They say, oh, she's very bright. So I know.
I won't guide or lead that brightness.
Right, and don't lead that potential anywhere. Just Donna's bright. But what I realize now is, now that I'm in the heart and I'm surrounded by a lot of academic females and people, you're not an idiot. So from I'm not an idiot, I'm going to do this thing. And I'm going to do the doctorate. As soon as this master's drops, 26 next year.
You're doing it. You're not gonna. You are doing it.
I'm already starting to put together my application for my PhD research. Like, I'm serious about this thing. And it's not about having letters after my name. It's, if that's what they say is the benchmark for being qualified to speak, then I'm going to reach it. 'Cause I got something to say.
We keep hearing about young people carrying knives and lives getting lost, but nothing really changes. What do you think Parliament needs to do differently? And what should we as a community be doing right now?
Parliament's not going to do anything different. Capitalism is built on the bodies of the poor and of their children, more importantly. Before we came here, it was the Irish, the Italians, the Jews. They're just using the same model. It just happens to be Black Caribbean, Black African children that are now the gristle for the meal, the fodder. So looking to Parliament to secure and to say, now they don't need our votes. Who's talking about knife crime? I think it was an absolute travesty that a black woman had to say over the death of her own child. She expected it. And when I was interviewed, I think it was on LBC or one of them, I said, well, why are you not shocked? Because that's the same thing I say. And I think, it's a hard thing to look at other humans and to know really deep down in your gut, they don't care. It's not just that they're just not like us. That's just one side of the coin. The reality is, the other side is, they do not care about us. And this from a people who have been generationally made to believe that there is a service we commit to others to benefit ourselves. It's a hard reality to swallow, but it's a reality nonetheless. And so nothing will change in their seats of power because it's not in their interest to change it. They need us to fill their criminal justice systems. They need us in their prisons. There are whole complexes they have planned here in the UK based on the investiture of our children going to jail and going to prison. So they ain't gonna change, right? Because they got money. As far as they're concerned, money have to make. And they're gonna do everything they can to make that to happen. I think what we have to do is, again, I go back to what I'm saying, what we haven't been good at doing, and I was having a conversation with Uncle Lee Jasper recently, is we've been very reactive. We've not been very preventative in our community models. We tend to get together and huddle and talk, and when something bad has happened, what we need to do, and this is why we go back to the point about the divesting of ego, and this is why I think it has to be led by black women and not black men. Because if we wait on the men, we've been waiting on the men since Darkest Hole dead, and I know they can't come together. So if black women lead our own kind of female-led conversations and initiatives where we take this up, where we create our own structure. So one of the things I want to do by the back end of this year is I want like a South London consortium. You can come in from Kent. We'll allow you in to the back end. From Orpington, you can come in. Don't try and go no other way though, yeah? You can come in via Orpington. Jesus. But a South London consortium of women across my network that are also invested at this level. When I have a part for pissing, you know, but I have built a lot with just the will of people, the goodwill of people, where we now, institutions have to come to us and we look at every aspect of black lives. That's education, housing, employment, every area, mental health. And we kind of, I think that's a model that we can operate from the bottom. It's not very macro. It doesn't require much. It's just will and understanding. And, you know, black women, we love to eat and have a little drink and all these things. And we can just kind of, what does that look like for us, starting our own kind of edifices that deal with our own problems? So if they want to know, they got to come to us.
Yeah.
If they want anything at all, data, anything, they got to come to us. Just like how they have to do with the Asians, we need to start bringing our things together where they have to come to us, not we go to them.
Like with every other community, ethnic group, just that we're the only ones that don't seem to have that model to a T.
Because we can't divide and, as we said earlier on, look at you, you're 3 out of 3. You're light skinned, you're married, and you live in Kent. Like I don't even know why I'm even here.
Don't do this. What's wrong with you?
And she's got the good hair.
Oh,
you know, Lord, like that.
Jesus.
You know, like that.
Nah, 100%. Not even. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
You know, I've got nothing but love for you. But I'm just saying, we're too quick to disintegrate when we have differences.
Yeah.
Now, I do not like jollof rice. I don't. Never eaten it. I do. That's what. See already. But I'm not saying that.
Because I like jollof, we can't.
No, I think that's a redundant argument. I think we just appreciate that people do things differently, but we're all aiming for the same outcome. And when I've had the chance to be in other communities, I remember when I was campaigning and this man told me straight, he's like, not all Asians get along. Some of us worship cows and some of us don't. But the outcome is that we've got to strive and we've got to survive this thing and we do it collectively. He's like, that's the difference. Yeah. And what he said was, but when we came here, we learned that model from you guys.
That's the thing. We've set the foundations for everyone else but ourselves. I don't understand that.
Well, we do understand it. That's for a whole different podcast.
I was going to say, we have to make sure you definitely come back so we can have that conversation. So diversity and inclusion. So one of our last questions. You work as an equality, diversity, and inclusion consultant. Let's be real. So many companies tick a box, but don't actually do the work. What's the biggest myth about diversity and inclusion and what actually works?
Well, it doesn't work because it's not about diversity and inclusion, it's about equity. But yeah, because it's their thing, you have to write it down. I believe in equity, I don't believe in diversity that they're speaking about is based on representation in terms of optics. I want to be around the thought leaders who have a diverse thought leadership. That's not often represented by optics. That's about the mind. That's the first thing. Inclusion, I already live my life that way. And I want to be included, right? I'm a black woman, for God's sake. So, you know, Inclusion is how I think human beings should live. I think it's a conversation for those who are not living that way. And I don't say that it's just, I think we need to come away from the idea that the need for inclusion and equality is just for white people. It's not. We got some things back at the ranch here in our own black community where we're not necessarily inclusive. Now, I'm going to call it what it is. I'm not saying that a person's transition from one sexuality to another is my bag. It's not. It's not my lived experience. But do I support their right to live? I do. So we've kind of got to grow up in some of our thinking and some of our ideologies and be more representative of the society that's out there, because what we're doing is we're cutting off our own daughters and our own sons. And whilst we might not agree, but who are we to judge what people do in their bedroom? As long as it's not on my nice clean sofa, I'm joking. As long as it's just not as long as it's not offensive and no small children and animals were involved, go on, go do what you do. You understand?
Yeah, man.
And I think we like to look at inclusion and it's other people. I think 2025, I've been saying this, got to be the year that black people start to look at what we're not getting right. Before we start looking externally, we're still doing stupidness like Dominicans and people think it's a small island. We're still doing stupidness when actually they might deport all of us back to St. Kitts. How about that? Like at this point, we just need to be like slightly more collaborative in our thinking and put down certain things. Yes, we can have jokes always.
You're making me laugh at points I'm not supposed to be laughing
No,
at.
but I'm saying, we just got to be slightly more evolved.
Yeah.
I think equity is where it's at. You meet people at their point of need. And not everybody's point of need is the same. So equality doesn't work, right? And diversity doesn't necessarily work, but equity always will be, because it's about meeting you at your need, Barbara at hers, Dwayne at his, me at mine. And they're going to be 4 different points of need. That is mostly what I preach, which is why I don't get a lot of work.
Where? And this podcast can have me laugh at. You see, people come and make me laugh at things because of the way you say them, and then I look like I don't have no compassion or respect. Do you get what I'm saying to you? But you got me cracking up laughing. But please don't think.
Whining out.
Yeah, like it's not that. It's just the people in front of me. They won't come back again after this. No, I'm joking. They will. Hopefully. So if you could change one thing about Croydon overnight, what would it be? And what's your vision for the future?
Our town centre, it looks like something from Afghanistan after the Russians did bomb it to us.
I went back one day and I was
Yo,
like, wait, what happened to Croydon?
Me no know, but it looked like one graveyard. This morning I walked through there with my daughter. We went to Primark. She can't go Primark by herself. And her issue, not mine. It's a her problem. Anyway, we're walking and I was like, my God, the Drummond Centre. We want investment. We have one of the best transport links. If I was an MP, so if I'd won the seat, right, I'd be working with Transport Minister, because Croydon is a bit of a bottleneck. We need to open it up. We are the route through to the coast. Anywhere you want to go, Bognor, all the trains, Portsmouth, they all go through Croydon. So we're a really good thoroughfare, I think the expression is, round to the coastal towns and universities. I think we need to bring in investment. We have LSBU now, so we have a university now in South London, South Bank. We have that there. I think slowly but surely, we're a tale of two cities, right? You've got extreme poverty and deprivation in the north, and I mean extreme. If you were to look at some of our wards on paper, they're up there with some dark places. Yeah, it's a lot. And equally, you've got the Webb Estate in Coulston, which has multi-millionaires living in it. And I just want to change the town centre, because I think where people live and how they live motivates how they see themselves. And this is something that I talk about. How do you expect a child to want to perform well at school when he's come from a black mold-ridden flat? And where you live and your environment has a direct impact on how you see yourself and your mental health. So I think our town centre needs to be changed. And we need the investment. We need job opportunities. When I was a young girl, the Home Office was one of the biggest employers. I left and worked there. I mean, I was working at the Home Office when I was 19. And we need to bring some of that employment back and some of the shops back and the businesses. Now, how we would do that is a whole, I'll come back on another show and kind of share my business model. But I think it's there and I think it can be done. And I think there should be more support for smaller business owners as well, who are being bought out of the market. You just can't operate. When when we were young and we wanted clothes, your mum would give you 20 quid and you went to Croydon or you went to Bromley, or we just go on our phone. If we had a dance tonight, we would have gone on our phone last night and got next day delivery. Like the world is a different place.
Yeah.
And so I want to see, some of the investment for shoppers. Older people like to shop. So do I. I don't want to buy avocados I can't touch, because the two that they're going to pick for me inside of the Sainsbury's is going to be hard and rock their ass because they don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I like to touch my pineapples. Like that's how I was taught to select fruit. So I think there's got to be a balance of both. If there's one thing I could do, it would definitely be that. Bring back our town centre, bring back the investment and the shops, bring back some hope, create some employment opportunities for our young people and their parents, more importantly, and get proper housing. That estate on the Purley Way, Wadden, and it's the damp. It's built on the River Wandle. When I was campaigning, you find out these things, that they're ridden with black mould. And start to create more social housing. I think that's something that's a big conversation I would love to come back out here and have. There's nowhere to live because everybody's bought what Maggie Thatcher started in the beginning was a good thing, but now everybody's bought their council house, which means that the council stock has been reduced and they're only building houses for property developers to make money. So if they build 15 flats, they might give 3 to the local authority, but the other 12 are for them to make money. So people and more of us need social housing because either for evictions, we can't afford our mortgages, so we're more reliant on social housing. So there's a real imbalance there, and I think those are the issues that need to be addressed.
I hear it. Donna, one last question. Last question.
Come on then. Are we going to have drum roll?
What's your message to Black British parents?
You are seen. It is not easy, but then it never has been. You are supported. If you need me, call. But you are seen. And it's not all a mess, and it's not all gone wrong. And even for the things that have gone wrong, there are people out here that can help you fix that. And I'm saying that looking to the camera because I need them to understand. It's not easy, and we're blamed for everything. We're blamed for having them. We're blamed for having them and they're excluded from school. We're blamed for their behavior. We're blamed for their diet. We're blamed for every living thing, more than any other type of parent I think there is. But you are seen. I see you. I acknowledge you. And all of the things that you do, the 2 jobs that you do to bust your ass to get them into school, we see you. And if you need advocacy, if you need support, it's not hard to find me. Don't be a stranger and don't think that you're alone. One hand wash one hand. And as we would say, one cork off in a basket. We're here. I'm here for you. Like, it's real. It's not easy.
Please share your details, your contact details, how our listeners can get hold of you.
So my OnlyFans page is...
Oh my God! See what I'm saying? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Don't let me light you up out here. No, you see, he doesn't know. I didn't see, but I want you to see something. You see what he just said about a quote? What's that on my WhatsApp?
Wow. Whoa.
I got goosebumps when you said that, but go ahead. Sorry.
So on Instagram, it's at Biggest Food because I am the biggest food. With extra oxtail gravy, of course. On LinkedIn, it's Donna Murray-Turner. Facebook, it's Donna Murray-Turner. Where else am I at? Oh, and on TikTok, it's by and for Croydon. I haven't really been on there for a while, but you can follow me on there still. But yeah, I'm about. You can't help but miss me. You can't. I'm everywhere. And the red hair helps.
Donna, thank you so much for gracing us,
sis.
sharing
man,
space
always,
and time.
Always love.
Appreciate you.
Love,
to the max.
Love. Nah, man,
love you back, same
it's
way.
Reciprocated, man. Trust me. I wouldn't have come out. Big Saturday in the call.
I know. I
It's only
appreciate
because
it.
It's my brother and sister. 100%, man. 100%. Honor.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And it was filled with wisdoms, perspectives, like loads of gems. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.